So, why are we going to talk about fleet safety? Great question. At R&R Insurance, we would tell people, our clients, our prospect accounts, your vehicles are the single largest insurance exposure to your organization. And when we say that, we have some ways to back that up. And in my webinar, I'll give some examples of why that is in fact the case. Also, from a safety standpoint, I've been doing this, let's just say, longer than 30 years. And since the time I started doing safety and up until today, vehicle accidents are still the #1 leading cause of workplace fatalities. That has not changed over all the years. Last but not least, and this one has actually been rearing its ugly head quite a bit lately, insurance carriers have been losing money insuring vehicles for several years now. So we're seeing a lot of our clients experiencing premium increases. And I would tell you there's never been a better time to have the controls in place that insurance companies consider to be hugely important. So what won't we talk about in my fleet safety webinar on March 16th? That's a very simple two-word answer, I guess, and that's DOT regulation. So the DOT has its own separate set of rules that kick in for vehicles over 10,000 pounds up to 26,000, and then more regulations for vehicles over 26,000 pounds. We're going to be coming at fleet safety from more of a insurance and best practice type of a outlook, as opposed to what are the DOT regulations. So we want you to be able to keep your vehicle insurance premiums as low as possible. And right now, given what's happening with claims and all the things that are going wrong with vehicle crashes out there in the world, this is a big challenge. So the webinar itself is going to cover 3 main topic areas regarding your fleet. And as these come up, you're definitely going to see there are things that need to be dealt with when you have company vehicles. So number 1 is your drivers. These are the folks operating your vehicles. Secondarily, the vehicles themselves, age, how they're kept up, where they're stored, all of those good things. And then last but not least, the overall fleet safety program, which is a fancy way of saying what are our company rules and regulations. So regarding the drivers, I can tell you that the folks that you allow to operate your vehicles, that's probably one of the most important decisions you make as an organization, because those people are out there on the road. And obviously when you're driving a vehicle, you cannot be closely supervised, and sometimes we're at the mercy of the habits that they have or have not developed regarding driving. So a huge part of the driver piece of the puzzle that we will talk about is, are you screening your drivers? And is that screening formal or informal? So we'll go into some depth about that. We'll talk about looking at motor vehicle records. We'll talk about avoiding something, and you can see this is a legal term, negligent entrustment of a vehicle. We don't ever want that brought up, meaning we let somebody operate a vehicle that should have never been behind the wheel. So when we talk about screening of drivers, that's the road we're going to go down, looking at their past record and then having some way to measure them. Next, your vehicles. So do we have requirements about the maintenance that gets done on each and every vehicle? Or are we an organization that says, hey, we trust our drivers to take care of this? They're using the vehicle every day. It's in their best interest to keep the vehicle maintained. We're on the honor system. I have some thoughts about the honor system. And then, are we periodically inspecting our vehicles to make sure that they're in good condition, they haven't been in accidents, someone didn't add a heavy-duty trailer hitch to a passenger vehicle, all those things, as we like to say, trust but verify, or keep the honest honest, make sure those vehicles are in good shape. Last but not least, your overall program. So we're going to talk about things of, do you have general rules about how you want these vehicles operated? What happens when the vehicles are taken home? Who can and cannot drive them, etc. We're also going to talk about non-owned vehicles, which most commonly is somebody driving their own vehicle for work-related activities, how you can have some controls over that and why that's important. This is a sign of the times. We're going to talk about the need to have a distracted driving policy and what your company policy is on cell phone use. We're going to talk about the importance of just doing some regular driver training. And this does not have to be hours and hours. It can be relatively short, but get important messages across. And then last but not least, when something does go wrong and someone's involved in an accident, we want to make sure that the drivers are doing a good job of documenting what happened. So our insurance company is not paying for something that your driver did not cause. And then I always like to finish up this webinar with some things that are new in fleet safety. GPS systems are not necessarily new, but it seems like every year they add to some of the things those systems can do. And right now, the biggest thing that's happening is cameras. And there are many, many options about where you can have those cameras positioned and what they're going to be recording. And then post-webinar, we'll talk about some of the things that are going to be available to the people who are attending the webinar. And those include sample vehicle safety policies, which have been more or less blessed by the insurance industry. We're going to give you some ideas of, if you do pull motor vehicle records for your drivers, what is a very consistent way to review them to determine what an acceptable driver is and what is not an acceptable driver. And then ideas on where you can obtain the motor vehicle records. Since they're so important, we want to give you some options on where you can get those run. And last but not least, some ideas on driver training programs for your people, including those put on by R&R ourselves, which we do on a regular basis. So again, to recap, this webinar is on March 16th. It's from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. To register, you just go to myknowledgebroker.com, click on Menu, Resources, and Webinars, and you will find it. They're all arranged by date, and this one is March 16th. I also provided the link, which will take you to the Zoom meeting on which the webinar will be presented. Thank you for listening to this. I would say, if you want to make sure your vehicles are as controlled as they possibly can be, I urge you to join us on March 16th. The best part of this webinar is there is no charge. It's a free webinar, and I'm pretty certain you will get some good ideas to make your fleet safety program safer going forward, which is really the goal of all of us. Minimize those potentials for accident and keep your fleet or auto insurance premiums as low as you possibly can. So again, thank you for listening today, and have a great rest of your day.